Hey kids, welcome to Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Today I want to talk about a very stylish detective show that premiered in 1965 called Honey West. Starred Anne Francis. And, some people think of it as sort of groundbreaking in terms of having a female private eye who, kicks ass and solves crimes. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. It originates as a series of 11 novels that started being published in 1957 by Forrest and Gloria Fickling. They wrote under the pseudonym G.G. Fickling. Now, apparently, Forrest did most of the writing. Gloria helped him sort of ground the lead female character a bit more in reality. They wanted to have a heroine who was part Marilyn Monroe and part Mike Hammer. And apparently the story's a little more risque than the TV series, but it was apparently just what American TV was looking for, because in 1964 we had the introduction of Kathy Gale, played by Honor Blackman, in The Avengers, the great British, what do you call it, a spy show, I guess. Of course, she's followed up by Diana Rigg as Emma Peel, and that introduced this idea of this, kick-ass female spy, and I guess they were looking for something very similar for American television. The lead character, Honey West, is played by Anne Francis, also known for Forbidden Planet. The show got its start as what you call a backdoor pilot in the second season of Burke's Law. Great show. It's sort of an eccentric cop show. The lead character is Amos Burke, who's a millionaire and a homicide detective and captain, and he shows up to crime scenes in a chauffeur-driven Rolls Royce. A lot of eccentric guest stars. When I first watched it, first thing that popped into my mind was, this is like a combination of a detective show and The Love Boat, and it was, in fact, produced by Aaron Spelling, so there you go. Season 2, episode, 30. It's called Who Killed the Jackpot? This is in April 21st, 1965, and that was our first introduction to the Honey West character on Burke's Law, as Burke and his men investigate a crime while Honey West does as well, and she's kind of this notorious private eye that they have to deal with. And apparently it was popular enough that it got the spin-off, and so we got 30 episodes of Honey West in 1965, and I'm sure it bled into 1966. Black and white, we're just at that phase where TV shows are starting to move into color. Of course, in 66 we get, Batman, very famously, renowned for its really bright colors. The character of Honey West is played beautifully by Anne Francis. She has panache, she has style. But what I love with Anne Francis is she keeps it very grounded. It's not like she doesn't overplay. She doesn't overplay those aspects of the character. But it was a very stylish show. Anne Francis, often is wearing animal prints. She has a really cool apartment. You got the jazz intro on the show. You got like the clothes are, just perfect. Her partner on the show is Sam Boltz, played by John Erickson. I'm going to be honest, I didn't love this character, and I think it contributes somewhat to the show not making it past first season. I don't think this is anything against John Erickson. I think he played it as he was directed to play it. The character clearly is in love with Honey West. She seems to be in love with him, but we don't really get that great banter like you would get on Moonlighting, on Remington Steele, even to an extent on the Avengers with Steed and Peel, of the parry, the thrust of two people who are attracted to each other, but it's not quite happening, and maybe it won't happen, but maybe it will happen. Instead, what you mostly get is him, yelling at Honey because she's taking too many risks, and it's like, well, she's a freaking private eye. Of course she's taking a lot of risks. That's the job, and you're her partner, so you know that. It just didn't, the pairing didn't, again, I don't want to say the pairing as though it was the actors. The way that the Sam Bolt character was written, it just didn't, I don't think it brought a lot to the show. She has a pet ocelot named Bruce. She has this really cool car, AC Cobra. It's got a lot of style. And I think that is another problem with the show. I think they maybe leaned on the style and the gimmick of the female private eye a little bit too hard at times, and didn't let the characters and the stories speak, for themselves. The investigative, how do I want to say this? Office that Honey and Sam run uses a lot of hidden microphones and hidden cameras. They have this van that's sort of disguised, it's just like a work van, and you see them there in the back of it, and they're using the equipment to spy on people. And there's another problem with the show, because I don't know, that kind of the kind of spy gadget stuff works when you're doing an espionage show. I think for a detective show, it can take a little bit of the fun out of the characters searching for the clues firsthand, questioning people firsthand, where you get the banter, of the good guy and the bad guy trying to suss one another out. Now you do get that in the show, but I think it's undercut a little bit by yet another gimmick. What I generally looked forward to in every episode, and it usually happened towards the end, was Honey West beating the crap out of the bad guys. And now, this is a gimmick, but this gimmick kind of works, because they have some absolute knockdown, drag-out fights in this show. And she's using judo, and she is right in there. It's not like what you got with Batgirl on the Batman TV show, where she's mostly like on a raised platform kicking people in the face. Honey West is in there, and she's taking some shots as well. And that was generally one of the highlights of the show. But again, the stories tend to be fairly kind of bog standard, following along clues until you get to the end and the bad guys are revealed. Didn't have quite the whodunit aspect of Burke's Law and of a lot of detective shows, where you have the suspects and you as a viewer are kind of following along and trying to solve it. You didn't really get that in Honey West, which is fine. You'd always want to call it more of like an adventure show than say a detective show, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It wasn't necessarily what I was expecting, though, and so I found myself with some of the episodes kind of like being a little bit distracted and kind of waiting, like, okay, well, hopefully Honey's going to beat the crap out of somebody here in a minute. The show did spawn a few toys. The original doll of Honey West was not the greatest. If you want to find them, they're not going to be cheap. They were done by Gilbert, 11.5 inches tall. There was apparently a first likeness that was really bad, and the second one was a little bit better, but not the greatest in the world. Now, and I'm not sure how you pronounce the name of this company, if it's Fison or Fiken. They've done a more recent doll, not based entirely on Anne Francis, but there's some hints of that. It's a much cooler looking doll, and it is equally very, very, very expensive. So let's get down to, I'm not going to go episode by episode because there's 30 of them, but some of the better episodes, and maybe some of the ones that kind of show some of the flaws in the show. First episode, the swinging Mrs. Jones, good episode. It sets up the concept of the series. It sets up the characters. It does it very well. It's a fun show. When I saw that one, I was in. I was all ready for this series. Second episode, the Owl and the Eye, not bad, but this is where you get a real big dose of the hidden camera type stuff. And this is old TV, so hidden cameras don't look like there's actually a hidden camera in a room, showing something from kind of a weird angle, and the voices are kind of muffled. It always looks like you're watching the TV show. You know what I mean? This is pretty standard. You get it on Star Trek. You got it on all the shows back then, probably well into the 1990s. But you sort of get, you see maybe there's going to be a bit of an over-reliance on those kind of gadgets in the show, and I think they did hurt it. Episode 6 was called Whatever Lola Wants. This one has a really good ending. I'm not going to spoil it for everybody, but it was fun. Good comeuppance for the villain. Episode 13, The Gray Lady. For one thing, you get Nancy Kovac in it, who she was on Burke's Law, she was on Star Trek, she was on everything back in the day, and she's really cool. But you also get maybe the best fight scene in the entire series, where she's fighting, what's his name? Doggone it. I just lost his name. That's terrible. He was in the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Oh, man. You know what? When you get over 50, things just pop out of your head. But at any rate, maybe the best fight scene in the whole show. It's her versus him, and he is not pulling punches. There's no it's a lady, maybe I shouldn't be so. No, he's going at it full on, and she fights back full on, and obviously Honey West comes out on top in that one. I think my favorite episode, though, of the entire series, sadly, is episode 30, the last one. It's called An Eerie, Airy Thing. I thought it had a great little mystery. It was interesting. It was well acted. To me, it showed everything that the show could have and should have been all the way through. Because I think that's the hardest thing about this for me. When I got these, I was like super excited. I'm finally going to watch Honey West, and we get going into it. And I really love Anne Francis in this. She is fantastic. She has the charisma. She's grounded. She's believable as this character. She is absolutely great. You have everything you pretty much need for a really great series, and instead you get a solid series. It's not bad, and it's probably a little above average, but I liked the show, and I really wanted to love it, and I didn't love it. A lot of the episodes, they were fine, but they just didn't get their claws into me the way I wanted to. But I do suggest, if you get a chance to watch it, maybe you catch it in reruns on TV, or maybe you go out and find the DVDs. I highly suggest you give it a try. I think it's at least worth a watch, and I'll probably watch it again one of these days, and maybe my opinion will change. It is extremely stylish, so it gets high praise for that. Great acting by Anne Francis. And John Erickson is good in it as well. Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy, that's the actor's name. This is how it is when you get older, kids. Just wait. It's coming for you, baby. It's coming for you. But John Erickson is good in it as well. I didn't like the character quite as well. I thought if you'd made it a little bit more of, they're arguing over methods, or they're arguing over who they think did it more, and there's that sort of sexual tension, because that was what was great, like on Remington Steele, Moonlighting both come to mind. Well, and Moonlighting kind of flawed at the end, but I think maybe worked better in Remington Steele. You had this surface annoyance between the two characters, but there was this much deeper connection being forged between them. That was kind of this, grudging respect becoming a real fondness, becoming, an attraction, becoming, love. And that was kind of fun to watch over the course of the series. And in this one, it's like, it's just not really there. It's not clear. Is there something going there? There seems like there's something going on between the two characters, but you don't get it, and you don't get that sort of playful flirting like you got with Steed and Peel. That was a lot of fun. So I think that was a mistake in the show, and I don't know if there were issues at the time because we're in 1965. Well, we don't want to suggest that Honey West is having this affair with a guy she's not married to. That would maybe be a problem for the networks, and usually when the networks would do that kind of stuff, they'd be wrong, 90% of the time about what Americans wanted to watch. But so maybe something like that got in the way where those characters, but that could have been a really great part of the show. Again, I think the plots could have been a little bit better. I would have liked a little bit more of a whodunit as they're trying to navigate, through a bunch of maybe like Burke's Law kind of eccentric villains. But still, it's a solid show. It's worth watching for Anne Francis. It's worth watching for all the mid-century modern, cool, Irene Hervey plays her aunt Meg. She's really great on the show too. I really liked her. So there's lots of things to watch this show for. Unfortunately, I'd probably give this show kind of a B or a B minus instead of an A. And man, like I said, I liked it, but I really wanted to love it. And that's the review. Honey West, TV Private Eye, 1965. Go check it out. I think it is worth a watch, and maybe it'll work a little bit better for you, and you'll just find it the most fantastic thing that you ever watched. In the meantime, that's going to do it for Dad's Den of Pop Culture today. If you enjoyed this show, please like, please subscribe, please share it with your friends. I could use, all the help I can get trying to establish myself out here in internet land. If you have any comments, if you have any memories of Honey West, please leave it in the comments. I'd love to see what you have to say. I'd love to talk about the show with you, whether you love it or whether you hate it. I don't think anybody probably hates Honey West. I think that'd be kind of hard to do. Either way, I hope you have a blessed day. Please be kind to one another. Go out there, have some fun, and I'll see you next time on Dad's Den of Pop Culture.